A federal immigration official sent a curious email to the state Workforce Solutions Department earlier this month, asking for direct access to database of every employer and employee in the state. New Mexico said no, and just days later, ICE raided food plants in Mississippi, rounding up almost 700 undocumented immigrants. Now, Merritt, the state said it would consider ICE requests on a case-by-case basis. We can understand that, case by case. You got to go there. But what's your sense of where the state's coming from here? It seems like a blanket across the board deal here, no access. Is that the right way to go, or is there something in the middle here you could see that could serve both parties, meaning security for the nation and privacy for our citizens here?
Well, I think the state's in a real tough position because we have a sluggish economy. And we do rely on undocumented, I mean, we don't want to turn down any business. But to me, the only way to regulate or to manage illegal immigration is to hold employers accountable. Right. And that's something that's not been done in the past. I will say the Trump administration has significantly increased the cases and charges against employers over previous administrations. And I think perhaps a conversation between New Mexico and ICE would be in order to say, you know, what's your expected impact? What are you doing? Just getting an order and refusing it, that's not taking the ball down the field to the fact that we have no guest program outside of the H-2 visa program. And when we have, as unemployment gets better around the country, a lot of the firms that had that were raided in Mississippi said we'd had a downturn. We were not able to keep American citizens taking these jobs. That's right. So I think the whole thing screams we have to have a guest worker program. We have to decide what that looks like, and we have to hold employers accountable to some standard, whether it's the guest worker program, whether it's employing citizens. But if it's like treating the addressing the drug dealers and the demand situation in the drug war. We have to address the demand situation, which is we are offering jobs under the table.
That's right. Interesting point there. Tom, the idea that Bill McCamley, who heads the Department Workforce Solutions, says, quote, "It's not a secret what they want this information for," end quote. That's pretty bare-knuckled stuff. Is he just protecting New Mexicans? I mean, he's just looking at the situation for what it is and saying, not happening here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Bill has never been short of words. He always speaks what's on his mind. And I think that's one of the reasons he's very successful. You know, it should not come as a surprise because New Mexico is a sanctuary state. We have a number of cities that are sanctuary cities. So, you know, the fact that ICE wants to kind of come in and kind of take a look-see, really not that surprising. You know, given the current state of affairs, you know, I think Mr. McCamley is spot on.
Interesting point. What did you make of it? I mean, he also said we need to be extremely careful and protect people's civil rights and personal information. Neither Governor Lujan Grisham nor I will work to destroy families. We need communities where people feel safe. That makes sense to you when you hear this quote?
I mean, I applaud him for taking that position and the governor for doing that. You know, Bill is from Las Cruces. He represented a district down there, and he's familiar with this in a way that I think people in Albuquerque and Santa Fe are not necessarily as familiar. You know, when you drive around southern New Mexico, you see a lot of Border Patrol trucks. You see a lot of people, you know, that do that for a living. You know, the issue of immigration, illegal immigration, is much more in your face in southern New Mexico.
Right.
And I think he understands much more than I think maybe other state reps might, former state reps, about the impact to families. And I think that's a big motivating factor for that. And when you start to allow a federal agency to take, you know, have access to a database, you know, you're going to start breaking up families.
I mean,
and that,
every worker in New Mexico, when you think about that.
And that has,
amazing.
I mean, that's a lot of information.
That's right.
And it's interesting that, you know, Republicans often don't want to see federal government overstepping their bounds and having access and, you know, the black helicopter idea and all that. But yet in this context, yes, let's give them access to every employer, every employee in the state.
Which, by the way, Harry, included names and addresses.
Yes.
Addresses, when you think about that. You can't turn over an entire workforce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When there's no particularized suspicion, when we're just, it's almost a fishing expedition, but it's, well, not almost, it is a fishing expedition, but it's also there's a big distinction, I think, between having a rational immigration policy, so to go to Merritt's point, looking at E-Verify and the behavior of employers versus these big, splashy, dramatic raids, where in some sense, I would want to say the cruelty is part of the point. So to have the crying kids in Mississippi, it's almost like it's designed to send a message to people. We want you to self-deport. We don't want you to come here. And the kids are just going to be collateral damage. Bear in mind that many of these kids are American citizens.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And the administration's been clear they want more of this.
They want much more of this.
Much more of this.
The spectacle is the point as opposed to a rational policy that would really get everybody on board, including employers, but also start to think about what does a immigration policy look like that both fulfills the needs of the economy and is also consistent with our values.
You know, and this is really not unlike what the Trump administration's efforts had been to try to get voter data information from the Secretary of State's office, to which our current Secretary of State, Maggie Tulis Oliver, said, no, we're not going to play this game.
That's right.
I think it's important that we recognize that New Mexico has drawn a line in the sand and recognize that we have rights, that we have certain civil rights, civil liberties that should not be infringed upon. And I think the point that Harry made about particularized suspicion is really important. I mean, that's fundamental, constitutional, Fourth Amendment stuff, where you need to have a particularized suspicion about someone or something, and not just a random, database that you're able to go in and get information on.
You know, Merritt. Go ahead, Tom. You had a point there?
The only thing I was going to add is that okay, so ICE, maybe they can't get in here, but Department of Homeland Security and specifically Border Patrol can. And between Truth or Consequences in Albuquerque, a new immigration checkpoint, customs checkpoint has popped up. And so now along I-25, you now have two different checkpoints. So where they might not be able to get impact on one, they'll focus on another.
Interesting point there. And Mara was about to mention, the ICE officials said this information would be used to provide agents with, quote, a quick same-day response, end quote, presumably regarding workers' legal resident status. It sounds frightening. I mean, same-day response? I'm not quite sure what they're getting at there. Do you have a sense of what does that language mean?
Well, and I'm not sure why they would rely on New Mexico to provide that data with the I-9 program, with every employer having a federal tax ID. At some point, you've got to describe something as payroll.
Right.
And to me, there's a lot of federal data on this that could be gotten. So I almost wonder if this isn't also a litmus test for specific states in its way. And I find it very odd.
Texas went along with this. Is ICE empowered now? They claim Texas has given them this information. They have all the names and addresses and the worker information. It just sounds like they're empowered now as opposed to anything else.
I just don't understand what Texas would have this and the feds wouldn't.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it? Do you have a closing thought on that, Tom? We're about 30 seconds on here.
It's there's what they say, and then there's reality.
Right.
There are different agencies that have real credibility issues. So just because they say we've seen it, have they really seen it?
Very good point there. That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks to all of you for joining us, and Harry Van Buren, HVB. More famously, we wish you the best of luck from all of us here at New Mexico PBS. You're going to kill out there. It's going to be great. You're going to be really good. And to your wife, she's teaching as well.
She's teaching as well, and we're just going to be traveling around Southern Europe and Northern Africa and the Middle East. But we'll be following the show closely, and in 2 years come back. And I'm sure all the problems will be fixed by then.
In between. That's right. So let's raise a New Mexico PBS mug to Harry Van Buren. Best of luck. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. See you next week.